We are live. This is the market update. I am your host, Bill Noble. Well. Don't we have a different world out there these days, huh? I thought it was crypto winter. It's not, obviously. The decoupling is in effect. The AI trade, the DeFi trade, the altcoin trade, which I'm now calling the tech crypto trade, is in effect. It is in effect. Meme summer is coming. Privacy is back. All right, Bitcoin underneath 100 is going to be seen as cheap by a lot of big players. You have a lot of tech earnings coming up, perhaps. A lot of people who are going to be wondering, gee, do I want to be in equities? And of course, the answer to that is not really. Not really. Right? Equities went through all the way down, all the way back up. Now they have to probably sit in a range why crypto can just go and go and go and go. And frankly, the go and go and go and go has just started, right? You may have, some decent price action in Bitcoin, but believe it or not, I think all the action may wind up being in altcoins, particularly if Bitcoin sits still. It's like we're back in the old days. Like Bitcoin shoots up, everything sits still. Bitcoin stops, everything else follows, right? Now, you do have to be careful of like this SUI unlock that's coming up. I think I have some slides on that. A lot of people asking, why is SUI up? You do have to be somewhat careful of a ramp, right, prior to an unlock. We'll talk a little bit about that. But I think the bigger picture, listen, AI agents, which ironically picked up on like the Monero move last night. Right now, of course, that was all bad guys, right? That was all bad guys, but antivirus and privacy are on the move. They're on the move. So don't go anywhere. We're going to go through the charts, which actually are starting to look really good, right? India might be one of the first trade deals that we sign. Okay. I think they're doing anything they can to give the Chinese a hard time. But most importantly, these tariff headlines, it's out of the news. I mean, it's in the news, but it's out of the news. And the thing that's really funny about the tariffs is supposedly Walmart has told Chinese suppliers that they'll pay the tariffs. They'll pay the tariffs, right? Which is, I don't know, is bizarre, right? They'll use it to pass on costs to the consumer. But all of these trade deals, they can backfire. They can pull back on it. And even if they don't, if they make money, if they were smart, they would put it in Bitcoin. Really, they were smart. Okay. So the Chinese are telling everybody that they're not talking to the orange man as he claimed. So they're giving him the hard time. The orange man is in a big hurry to make a deal all over the world, and communists are not really in a hurry. They don't want to make a deal, right? AIXBT has picked up on, some bad guys moving around Bitcoin into Monero, and antivirus was up 20% yesterday. Okay. John McAfee is now talking on video, like, in a very slick animated picture, resulting in a burst through 3 million market cap. Okay. Trump floats plan to slash or eliminate income taxes using quote unquote bonanza tariff cash. Okay. Well, even if they have to bring in a sequel to Elon, which they will, because he's had to completely disappear from the public eye because of the problem with the Teslas, but he is going to have to get relief to people under a certain income bracket, right? Or you're going to have an implosion in the housing market and nobody's going to be able to afford a car because interest rates rose, and assumingly with the tariffs, prices are going up, at least of, obviously certain items. So if he doesn't either get tax reliefs or stimulus checks into the hands of people below a certain income range, I don't know. it may be over for people, and he does not want that headed into the midterm election. Okay, so believe it or not, the S&P went all the way back up to where it was before Liberation Day. Okay, net leverage in the system in equities just completely collapsed as everyone got forced out. Everyone. This leaves a lot of room for people to come back in. And honestly, it's one of the biggest P&L destruction within the hedge fund community I've ever witnessed over a 2-day period. In other words, they all got stopped out, and then they all got short and hedged, and then it went straight up in their face. Now, when you have P&L destruction, you have people sometimes unwilling to go back to the asset class, stonks, corporate bonds, whatever. You also have people turn around and realize, hey, there's a trade that's clearly working here, and that's Bitcoin. Now, I realize that Bitcoin for an altcoin community is not that exciting, okay? But Bitcoin could make the crypto landscape exciting again. Sounds like a political slogan. All right, let's take a brief moment to welcome who's here. Okay, we have Tyler, Taz Pinball, Shelly, what's up? MJ Hits, Yav, what's going on? The Green Shoots, Blown Ideas, Warmon, Ben, DH, Malik, Arendon, Railroaded is in the house. What's up? Breezy, hello, 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 hello. Welcome to the show. Okay. Now, the gold hangover. Very interesting, right? Gold goes up only. Everyone thinks it's the end of the world. Okay. Gold was way overdue. There's a lot of supply issues, let's call it, where U.S. exchanges don't have the supply of gold that they should. Now, when gold goes up like this, it's natural for Bitcoin to follow. But more importantly, it wasn't the end of the world. It wasn't, right? This tariff thing comes and goes. It wasn't the end of the world. And people were looking at gold and hyping it up on Twitter as if it would be some sort of catastrophic problem. It wasn't. The end of the world is never the end of the world. The end of the world comes, it's upon you immediately. You don't have a, gee, it's the end of the world trade every day on Twitter for 3 weeks. They just blew everybody out, and now there's only one obvious trade going forward. Okay, just so you know, the Orange Man is looking at a guy named Kevin Warsh, who has severely criticized the central bank's independence, arguing it fueled inflation and debt. Okay, so he's the front runner. And then what they're going to do with the Fed is they're effectively going to shame Jerome Powell's. They're going to shame Jerome Powell by putting someone else out there, effectively his replacement, saying anything. And Warsh slammed the Fed's data dependence forward guidance practices, right? In other words, the Fed's always like, well, we can't do it. It depends on the data. It depends on the data. It depends on the data. All right. Well, you guys waited for it to, you guys have waited for an inflation to show up in the data when it had been there for 6 months. And now with this slam in the equities market, I don't see any real inflation. Truflation has inflation at 1%. So this whole data dependence thing is just an excuse, I don't know, to be not good actors. Let's put it that way, right? Existing home sales plunge 5.9% in March. I mean, home sales is such a disaster. It's such a disaster that the housing market is going to crash. It's going to crash because if there is unemployment, you're going to have people turning the keys into the bank and there's no buyer. There's no buyer. The only buyer of housing is BlackRock. People cannot afford to buy homes. So if there's any mass selling event, there's no one there. There'll be someone there in Bitcoin. There'll be someone there in equities. There might be someone there in corporate bonds, but who's there in housing? Nobody. And this is why rates got to come way down, right? Way down. Okay. You know, the Fed has left in place one of its anti-crypto statements while rescinding 4 others. The one it left in place was issued in coordination with Brandon's White House and anti-crypto statement on the 27th in 2023. Don't think they care about you. Don't think they care about crypto. You know, the orange man wants it, I think, because it makes him popular. That's clear. Okay. And they're going to have to change the conversation towards crypto. But crypto as like a cyberpunk resistance movement is a very real thing, right? Now, crypto is going a little bit mainstream in the press. Time Magazine is saying, you know, why crypto leaders are feeling optimistic about the future. The crypto revolution is happening. Okay, so there's a lot of talk in legacy media about de-dollarization, a multipolar world, that, you know, we need different forms of money. And, you know, that's very fashionable. But it's less about, oh my God, there's this like, you know, end of the world or seismic shift. There is, but it may not be a negative event, right? Like massive amounts of money can be made when you know, do trades at big, like, just let's call it like decoupling inflection points, right? Like when markets change their nature or there's a fundamental shift, right? The fundamental shift occurred off the tariffs. And I've always talked about there being pressure in the system, debt, you know, currency problems, you know, sovereign credibility. And then all of a sudden you wake up one day and there's a new trade that keeps going and going and going and going and going and going. It happened with the S&P in 1982. It happened with the dollar in 1985. It happened with the dollar in 2000. It happened with internet stocks in 1998, right? And every once in a while you come along these like tremendous trades that if you're on it at the inflection point, well, boom, you know, you make a lot of money. And obviously, given what I've been saying for the last 3 weeks, we are at one of those inflection points. So everyone's like, oh yeah, Bitcoin's at 95K. You know, every time Bitcoin goes up $500 or you know, or $1,000, it results in like this big headline on Twitter. Look, folks, a fundamental shift has occurred. And if you look at Web3 and crypto and even some memes, you know, like I said, I'm cheering on my little coin. There's a lot of money to be made here in like a strategic shift in how people invest. Okay, so Trump's meme coin dinner, obviously designed to enrage the left. Hopefully he doesn't get himself in trouble with this. Hopefully, right? The idea that he brought back the meme coin is in a conversation is probably an indication of how badly the tariff thing went. Right? The money generated from that is nowhere near what they thought. And honestly, if they wanted to generate money, they should just listen to Michael Saylor and buy Bitcoin. They could probably buy it from the Chinese directly because they're probably the only ones who are selling it. They have a big Bitcoin stash. They're probably the only seller out there. Okay. Why should the U.S. create a strategic Bitcoin reserve? Okay. From my standpoint, the reason for having it and the Treasury specifically is diversify and expand their value base in a new way. If that increases the price of Bitcoin over time, great. But that shouldn't be misconstrued as the driver. Few are likely to buy the pitch that the Bitcoin industry is fundamentally concerned with the health of the U.S. debt portfolio, right? Ultimately, short and long term, it's all about the Bitcoin price. Okay. So again, it's interesting that this individual thinks a strategic Bitcoin reserve is just an effort by the Treasury to hold a different currency, right? You have Swiss francs, euros, yen. You have gold. You have a different currency. Why not? Especially if the currency can appreciate, right? It's not just to pump people's bags, although I'm wondering when people are going to figure out that rising crypto prices is stimulus, right? The higher end of the income zone, for people he's talking about giving tax relief. So if it's like 150 and under, just underneath that is people between 90 and 120. That's most of the crypto base. Most people in crypto are in that zone. And, if you make crypto go up, you have stimulus without writing a check. Okay, Sierra Leone is now accepting Bitcoin for citizenships, right? Bitcoin for citizenships. Unbelievable. Okay, Michael Saylor is back in. 15,000 Bitcoin at 92K, right? Interesting how they calculate this statistic, which he calls the Bitcoin yield. Okay. The Bitcoin yield is essentially what he's making on Bitcoin divided by all the shares that are out there and all the shares that could be out there if people convert these, fancy instruments that he's issuing into stock, right? Because that's what a convertible bond is. They issue something, and if MicroStrategy gets to a certain price, they can convert it into the stock. Okay, the dots are back. He's just going to keep going. Now, the reason he's going to keep going, and I don't know, I don't think people talk enough about this. I think if you understand the computer science behind Bitcoin, if you understand that machines are not going to trade in fiat, and you understand that Bitcoin, because of its scarcity, could be a part of like a new AI abundance trade, right? In other words, AI is going to produce productivity. I'm on it literally all day long, literally. Okay. And if you consider that we're in a new fundamental shift in terms of how the economy works because of AI, and that Bitcoin is associated with that, if you see it that way, 80, 90 Bitcoin is cheap, because it should be at 120. And then after it's at 120, alts follow if alts don't follow sooner, right? Like Bitcoin's only up 1% today, but you got a lot of altcoins flying 4 or 5%. Okay. So the Bitcoin trade is a part of the AI trade. It's a part of like the new prosperous future trade. And of course, it's amazing. Michael Saylor buys 15,000 Bitcoin. Okay. Oh my God. Can you believe how bullish it is? See what I'm saying? MicroStrategy is about to break TradFi. Tesla net income, $409 million. Okay. Tesla market cap, $890 billion. MicroStrategy market cap, about $100 billion. MicroStrategy currently has 1,240% greater earnings than Tesla, but trades 11% of Tesla. If the market valued MicroStrategy's year-to-date Bitcoin gains the same way it valued Tesla profits, MicroStrategy would trade at $41,000 per share. And that's without pricing in Bitcoin accumulation and price appreciation and further accumulation. Okay, so let me translate that into English. Stocks are a weird game. They assign value based on what the market thinks a dollar of earnings is worth. So if you have $1 of earnings from something boring, it's worth $1. If you have $1 of earnings from something exciting that might turn into something really big, well, I don't know. They might assign, a higher valuation. A dollar of earnings is not worth the same thing in every company, as this example notes. So now, obviously, Elon's got, robots, Tesla, SpaceX. Okay. But if Michael Saylor has software you can't replicate with a chatbot, and no private company could ever amass the kind of Bitcoin holdings that he has without either buying everything that the Chinese have or blowing the market up to like 300K Bitcoin. I don't think anybody could ever pull off what he's pulled off. Can't. So this makes his company unique. And this makes the realization that, oh, wow, we got to get on this Bitcoin trade. Remember I talked about the fundamental shift? And guess what? All his hedge fund P&L destruction, yeah, they're all short this stock. They're all short MicroStrategy because, MicroStrategy is blah, 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 blah on the spreadsheets. It's worth twice as much as the Bitcoin it holds. Wah, 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 wah. Okay. Hedge funds have no tolerance for any more destruction. And if MicroStrategy and Bitcoin take off, that MicroStrategy rally could be explosive. Okay. Buying Bitcoin has certainly been a good marketing strategy for MicroStrategy. MicroStrategy is now number 2 for social dominance across the financial services sector. It actually started trending last night. I kind of had this Michael Saylor laser eyes stream and a thumbnail, and it didn't do much. And then it got perky last night. People are running around going, hey, what's this guy Michael Saylor doing? I realize this guy's been running around saying this for a very long time. And if this whole Bitcoin thing, gets traction inside TradFi as them acknowledging that this is the only like common sense trend that everyone's got to get on, I don't know, man. It's explosive. Vanguard's Growth Index Fund has brought 600,000 MicroStrategy shares, okay, in the first quarter of 2025. So let's go over some brief history of legacy. When you have mutual funds like Vanguard, you have pension funds, insurance companies, these huge entities gig along a stock and hedge funds short the stock. How does that usually turn out? I'll give you a hint. The hedge funds get wrecked. The only time that ever works is if you have kind of like a big short crisis, right? Where they all get wrong, like some toxic, and even the banks get involved in that. That's 2008, right? But, when it's like a bunch of pension funds and insurance companies buy a stock, they're draining the stock out and it never comes back in circulation. Like if it goes to zero, they tax loss sell it. But again, who's going to sell the hedge funds? Who's going to sell the shorts their stock? Where are they going to get the stock from? They're not. It could go parabolic. Could go GameStop, right? All right. So ETF issuer says 4-year cycle is dead. Okay. Well, that's nice. That makes a really good headline. I think you have to always keep in mind. You have to always keep in mind that the Bitcoin ETF, the Ethereum ETF, and associated ETFs, plus the changing monetary system, make crypto a different animal. Now, that said, after the Bitcoin halving, crypto has done nothing. Nothing. And frankly, everybody gave up on it after a 3-month correction. And if you consider the psychological space that crypto is now in, right? Back in January, it was the government's job to moon our bags. Now, governments have behaved so badly. So not only did they not moon our bags, right? The Orange Man's meme coin people sold over the top of everybody. Everybody thought it was crypto winter. And then governments started to make mistakes, both on the monetary and the fiscal policy, that their behavior is what's going to moon our bags, right? People just going to look at this and go, you know what? I'm going cyberpunk. I'm not dealing with this. I'm out. I'm going to Bitcoin. And then associated altcoins after that, right? I mean, you have a lot of AI and DeFi coins trading at 25 million market cap. That's a joke. I mean, you would have a meme coin go to 25 million market cap just because it has a cool website. Seriously. I mean, if you think about what's going on with like AI agents, there's like reports that, they're being used to move healthcare records around. Healthcare records are all still on paper. This AI thing is happening. And there are ways to trade it in crypto that, people aren't getting yet. Speaking of meme coins, the XRP army is back. The XRP army is back. And, if you look at it, it's like, oh my God, look how high XRP is going. Eagle King finds this. It's like, oh, look at this volume. They want to get after it. Now, the crypto market's trying to get after whatever they think is meaningful. They want to speculate. They want to play. Guess what? This stuff's back. And, I was doing some Gann research last night. And, Gann he was into like energy, time, price. And, Gann had a great point when he said, if something gets out of the gate and it can do something like this out of the gate, that's kind of like an energetic statement, right? It's like, okay, yeah, we were able to do this. So even if it comes back down here, they're still able to do it. We shall prevail. The XRP army. You got to watch out in XRP. You got to watch out. XRP hasn't really done anything. And then if they go with this no transaction tax on American cryptos, that's one thing. And then there's just also the idea that Ripple's not going to IPO unless they do something. They can't IPO on the XRP army meme coin. They can't. Okay. SEC getting off their back is priced in. Now the question is, what do they do with it? Okay, that meme coin, because remember, the speculative sludge goes first. The speculative sludge leads. It leads, right? $1.5 trillion asset under management. Franklin Templeton announces the decoupling. It's funny. I have a colleague who was very into the decoupling a long time ago. Now, it's important. I brought this up before, but remember, as we enter the end of the month, right, all these big mutual fund houses, they're going to be adjusting their books. Some equities guys that I was reading, they said that, in terms of the amount and volatility that you had in equities, you traded a year's worth of volume and volatility in a week. They had a year in a week on the way down and a year in a week on the way up. Right. And when people get done licking their wounds from that kind of thing, they're going to go, you know what? Let's get on the common sense trend. Okay. As a reminder, SUI will unlock $317 million in token in the upcoming week. Okay. Now, not that I'm drawing a parallel, because I'm not, but I do remember Ohm going up from 6 to 8, and that felt unnatural to me. Like, I had a price target of 6. It went to 8. Okay. SUI did do a major ramp. So just be careful of token unlocks. Okay. Here we go. Okay. Standard Chartered Bank, remember, who dramatically lowered their Ethereum price target. Okay. Says Bitcoin will make a new high sometime before July. We expect a sharp upswing. Matter of fact, I actually think Bitcoin could go way beyond its all-time high. Way beyond. Right. In other words, gradually, then suddenly. People are too used to Bitcoin being orderly like a stock, and Bitcoin could start moving like a crypto. And this is one of the reasons why, right? Unrealized losses at U.S. banks, 33% increase from previous quarter. That could be because of corporate bonds, and I'm not even sure that's what's happened lately is fully reflected in this. There were big problems in bonds over the last month. This thing with the realized losses in banks, it only takes, you can say it only takes one big problem, or you can say banks have to find something new to do. They got to find something new to do to make money. And that's probably going to be to offer crypto-related services. Like, we'll help you with DeFi. We'll help you keep, you don't have to open a Coinbase account. We'll let you do crypto inside your bank account. It could be just that simple. Okay. Now, ironically, nearly 16 months after BlackRock's launch of the ETF, the old-fashioned Bitcoin trust, GBTC, continues to dominate revenue generation. Okay. So in other words, GBTC charges a higher fee, right? Because it's called a trust. It's not an ETF, right? An ETF, by its nature, allows for lower fees. GBTC left its fees. A lot of Bitcoin left Grayscale to go over to the ETFs, and Grayscale still has a lot of money in there. And they make a lot of money doing it, which will embolden Grayscale, because Grayscale has, AI. They have a lot. They have like 6 altcoin trusts that act like ETFs. They have one for AI. They have one, I think they have one for privacy. You know what, folks? Don't doubt how big it can be when they come pouring in. Here's something funny. Warren Buffett owns 5% of the Treasury bill market. So, Warren Buffett, was kind of a genius, sold all the Bank of America and Apple stock that he could, right? That he literally, and he was selling for months before the top, like months. He didn't just sell one day. He just kept doing it. And so did all the CEOs, by the way. Just kind of wondering what he's going to do. Wondering what's going to happen to all that money. The only guy that could buy as much Bitcoin as Michael Saylor could probably be Warren Buffett, because of the giant cash position that they have. I'm just saying. Do you want to have a little Kool-Aid? Okay, Warren Buffett on taxes. He says corporations write such huge checks to the government for taxes that there's a way to organize the tax code, right? If 800 companies wrote the same kind of check that he did, nobody would have to pay taxes. I don't know if that's true or not, but they do need to do something with the tax code. They do. Otherwise, people at a certain income level are not going to be able to make it, especially if there's an economic slowdown. Like, it's not necessarily related to the Buffett headline. But again, I'm actually going to go back to the XRP army for just a second. Like, meme coins, most people lose money, but meme coins are people's attempt at giving themselves a stimulus check. And you're going to need stimulus checks, because one of the things that I know that the Orange Man and Besant wanted to do was break inflation. They knew that equities would get wrecked off this tariff thing. They knew. So, in order to break inflation, you have to create unemployment. You do. And you're going to need tax relief for people. And most importantly, you're going to need Bitcoin and crypto moving as a way to give people stimulus, and they know it. Okay, so AIXBT picked on a bunch of bad guys moving around Monero. So they moved Bitcoin into Monero. Monero popped 50% on the news. Okay, so that's the bad guys. Meanwhile, antivirus. Ooh. Okay, my little pet privacy project, okay, has got Talking John McAfee working, and there's a privacy narrative there for regular people, just in case you're wondering, if you're going to wake up one day and, Their money is their money and your money is their money. And as one of these guys notes, cross-chain mixers, you can talk on the phone, you can get gift cards, you can have email without somebody prying in or some machine prying in. And they're doing more stuff all the time. Everyone's got their coin, right? I know you guys have like Ski Mask Dog and stuff like that. Just not going to get off this thing, right? Like, this guy was the original crypto influencer and he's freaking talking like on video. Some meme coins have cool things. This is a cool thing. And it has a use case. It does something. Now, utility often means sell to people. I don't think it's going to be that way anymore because I think people are coming to crypto looking for investing narratives. And if I can be honest, I'm praying that, in antivirus, we have something like this. And there's a larger point here, right? So this is Jesse Livermore's accumulation cone. I don't know if this qualifies, but you can certainly draw it in antivirus on the 4-hour chart. And we'll see what happens if it breaks through 3 million, if you actually get the kind of move you get here, right? Everyone's got their coin. Everyone wants their coin to come back. And the thing is, people's coins may come back because, you can't have Monero moving 50% and bringing that much attention to the privacy story, even though if it's bad actors, and not have other privacy coins move as well. Okay, let's go to TA. I think the TA is very simple. It really is. You have Solana, right? Okay, you go up, you have a 9 top, you pause, and now it can have 13 candles in the other direction. Okay, Bitcoin, same thing. 9 top, pause, and then if you turn around, you can have 13 more, you can have 2 more up weeks. Starting like early May, you let all these mutual funds and hedge funds get set. I cannot possibly be the only one who sees these charts. Okay. XRP hasn't done anything. And if XRP takes out 250, where's the resistance in XRP? It's at $5.20. And that's the market update. I'm serious. What actually stops this? 13 bottom, unchanged for the month in Ethereum. What stops this? Like Tau, just like a representation of an AI coin. Straight up, 9 top, pause, no real downtick, resume. I mean, folks, we're talking about like a stealth alt season is what we're talking about, right? And even if you wind up, stocks wind up getting smacked every now and then at the end of the month, well, who cares? I mean, this thing with total 3, this is total altcoin market cap. This is bird on a wire getting ready to fly. That's what it's called when you just sit on top of a moving average. It's like a bird sitting on a telephone pole, like a telephone cable, and just the bird just takes off. Bird on a wire getting ready to fly. Okay, so that is the market update. The most money is made in life when you can actually get positioned at a fundamental shift. It's a shift in thinking. Some guy thinks, oh, the dollar's lost its way. Maybe. Okay. Or there's just an abundance AI Bitcoin trade that's going to lift all the boats. All right, folks, we will see you tomorrow.